Alright, for this video we're going to go through solving quadratics. So this is for Algebra 1. This is for IXL's BB.7 and 8 specifically. I'm going to try the screen capture here and see if this works okay for you guys. I'm going to be, let's show it up here, drawing on the screen a little bit. I'm just using a trackpad right now, so you'll have to bear with me with some sloppy writing, but don't have touchscreen or a mouse or anything with me. Anyways, getting into this, the first one, BB7, is actually solving for a variable, so in this case that would be like g, when you are given two factors. So we spent time in class talking about if we had a binomial or a trinomial or really any polynomial, how we would break that up into factors. For this one, it starts you with the two factors. So in this case, that's the g minus 5 and the g minus 6 equals 0. And it wants you to solve both, and it says that you're using something called the zero product property for that. This is really simple once you get the hang of it. Basically what you're doing is you're taking each factor and setting it equal to 0. So what we would do there, we would have, like the first one I said was g minus 5. See up here how it says equals 0? We're basically going to ignore that second one for now and put equals 0. Now when we look at this, this is a one-step equation where if I added 5 to both sides, I don't know if we even need to write that out here, but we'll do it for the first one. We would be left with just g there, and I'd have g equals 0 plus 5 is 5. So I would know one of my answers is 5, and then I would do the same thing except for the second one. I'd ignore this and set this equal to 0, so I'd add 6 over, and I'd get g equals, well, 0 plus 6 is 6. This would be very similar. I'd take away 2 and add 2. Let's skip ahead and see if it gets any more difficult. Okay, so you could have something like this where we have k and k minus 9 as our two factors. So let's write that out. And we're using this zero product property again. The one you notice isn't in parentheses, but that's okay. We're just going to take the k itself and say equals 0. It's kind of a sloppy 0, that's okay. We'll have k minus 9 equals 0 as well. Well, this one is already solved for you. So that actually, although it looks different, makes it even easier. This one, if I add 9 to both sides, I would get just k left, equals, and I would have 9. So that's what we're looking at here. This is probably about the extent of the difficulty on this one before we go to BB8. I won't even show the z minus 7, it's just like the one that we were doing a second ago. This would just be a two-step equation. So if I write that out, I'd have 9z minus 8 equals 0. So a two-step equation. This time I'm adding 8 to both sides. That would give me just the 9z left over on the one side equals 0 plus that 8 would be 8. And then if I divide both sides by 9, I'd get z equals, that's going to give me a fraction of just 8 divided by 9. I'm running out of space here, but 8 divided by 9. I'm kind of tilted there, that's alright. What we would do when we put in our answer, I can look at this one and say that's 7. But the one we just dealt with, I could just put in like 8/9 and it should take it. There we go. So that's about the extent for that one. Okay, let's go to BB8 now. That's right here. So this one says solve a quadratic equation by factoring. So if we were in class, this is where I would say that's like by the end of class, I want you to do this. You should be able to do this. That's your goal. This is like the end goal for the stuff that we're doing right here. So it starts you with like a trinomial, and it basically adds a prior step to what we were doing a second ago. You need to actually do the factoring, and then once you get the factors, it's just like what we were doing a second ago. So in this case, I see 3 terms here. That tells me to think product sum. So if I think product and sum, let's see if I can make an S. That's not too bad. My product, remember, comes from this first number, so that's a 1 if I don't see anything, times the last one, so -9. The sum is just the b value, or that middle term, so -8. This is where you might need to slow down and think, okay, what 2 numbers multiply to get -9, but also add to get -8? If we think about that, if we're multiplying to get a negative, 1 has to be positive and 1 has to be negative. So to do that here, I'm going to say -9 and then a positive 1 would add up to this. So if I wrote that out, I'd have Q -9 and Q plus 1, and that still equals 0. I just want to point at the screen like I'm actually teaching in class. This is a little bit different. And now this is just like BB7, so if you watch the prior few minutes, you know what to do with this one. Just set each one specifically equal to 0. So you would think about ignoring 1 for a second, and then ignore the other one and set them each equal to 0. So I would have, for example, like if I added 9 over, that'd give me 9. Let me read this carefully real quick. Separate them with commas, okay. And then if I take away 1 from 0, that'd be a -1. There you go. So product sum, like we just did, that's if you have 3 terms, and remember my first number there was a 1, that's why I could shortcut right to the end. Remember, if that was something besides a 1, you'd have to split it apart. Okay, for this one you just see 2 terms, so check common term factoring first. What I mean there is, out of this term and this, what can I take out of both? Well, the common term is an S, and that leaves me with some leftover portion of S minus 2. So think about, if I had S squared and I take 1 out, I still have 1 inside. If I had minus 2s and I take the s away, then I'd have minus 2 by itself. And then again, those are equal to 0. And just like in BB7, you would have s equals 0 and s equals plus 2. Let's go ahead and see if it gets any more challenging, and if not, we'll wrap up. So this is just like the previous one. And I put, when you guys check progress book, that you only have to get to a 70 for these. And then this is 3 terms, so you're thinking product sum again. So it looks like that's about all we're going to need to think about here. Anything else before 80s? This would just, if you want to go for bonus, you could take out terms from both. So like divide a 3 out from both and a j. So I'll let you guys do that if you're going for bonus. Alright, if you guys have questions, feel free to leave comments, email me, whatever you need to do. Hopefully it helped.